Hello, everybody. Welcome by a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Today, my guest is Anya Ilkys. She's founder of College Starpoint. Anya is a college admissions and financial aid coach for international students. She has always been passionate about helping students and has spent her whole career working at colleges and universities in the Boston area until she had enough of the red tape and bureaucracy. She realized that she was spending more time doing paperwork and arranging spreadsheets than meeting with students. That's when Anya decided to open her own college consulting business. A lot of her students are first generation immigrants, so she knows by heart she's making a difference for them and their parents. Hi, welcome, Anya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
yeah, I'm glad that you're here. As I understood it correctly, you're a first generation immigrant yourself, right? So I guess you also learned by experience what it means.
Yep, that's true. I moved to the U.S. In high school, so this whole process that I am coaching right now, I've went through myself. It was pretty difficult and confusing, and the fact that my parents didn't go to school in the U.S. kind of made it even more complicated. So I'm just happy to be able to provide the service, and I definitely learned it firsthand. So that's where my passion comes in for sure.
Nice. And did it take a long time for you to figure out what everything that was involved with going to college or going to university in the United States?
Well, now looking back, I definitely see that I've made a lot of mistakes and I've wasted a lot of time. I was very inefficient in this whole process. So that's where I try to make sure that my students don't follow the same path and they do everything quickly and efficiently and don't, waste energy or time on things that don't matter and actually do pay attention to things that matter. I didn't actually learn this until after I graduated from college because hindsight 2020, right? You don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
when I graduated, I got into admissions and financial aid at the university level. So when I became an administrator, that's when I was able to look back and see what I've done and what I've done wrong and where I've done right. So that's basically how I learned. But it wasn't until years later till I I managed to figure that out.
Nice. And you've always been in working in college or universities, right?
Yeah, my whole career. So when I got into college, I went to a big research university in Boston. I had a scholarship there. It was a great experience, and honestly, I fell in love with education. It I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to get a postgraduate graduate degree. I got two master's degrees. I'm in a doctorate program right now, so it I am a perpetual learner. And so I think that's another reason why I love working with students because I'm a student myself. I've been a student all my life. So I worked alongside of going to school, gone through, two graduate degree programs. And yeah, I've spent my whole life in education. That's all I know from the student perspective and from the administrative perspective. And I love to share that knowledge with my students and parents too, because they are a big part of this process. And parents who are immigrants don't know how it works, so they rely on my expertise and everything that I can share for to help them support their students at home.
Nice. Um, you have a Russian background, and
I
I've
do.
seen that you speak Russian, Lithuanian, Spanish as well.
Yeah, I am a fluent speaker of Russian. My husband is Lithuanian, so I would say that I am more or less proficient. I definitely understand everything. I can have a basic conversation. Spanish, I've learned again through, high school and college. So have a basic knowledge of Spanish. But yeah, most of my kind of language expertise is, of course, my first language, which is Russian.
Nice.
Mhm.
And these international students, since they're coming to the United States, I guess they all speak English.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I work with domestic students and international students. Domestic students meaning students that are already in the United States, whether they've immigrated earlier, whether it was a couple of years ago or many years ago. Maybe these are students that were born in the United States to families, to parents who haven't attended college in the United States. So they could have an international background. And again, parents who don't know how to navigate the system, that's where I come in. But I also do work with international students. So students that are abroad, that are wanting to get education in the US. There's a whole another layer of immigration. I have worked in international student services for a few years of my, when I was working in academia. I was an assistant dean for international students for a few years. So I've learned the immigration piece, and it's definitely tricky space, especially now with COVID and so many things that are up in the air, and consulates being closed and everything. But yeah, I work with international students who are abroad, but also, I would say first generation immigrant students that are already in the United States.
Nice. And how do they find you? Is that by word of mouth, or because I can imagine if you're a first generation immigrant, you don't know where to go to. How did it come to you?
Yeah, so a lot of it is word of mouth. Of course, when parents and students find a resource who can help them and does a good work for them, and who's somebody that they trust, they want to share that knowledge and they want to share that with their friends. So a lot of my clients do come from, just people talking. I'm also pretty active on social media, and there's a lot of Facebook groups and communities that are focused on education, especially for those who are not native to the US. So I do post a lot of articles and answer a lot of questions, because again, parents want the good information and they want to help their kids. They just don't know where to turn. So I do provide a lot of help and expertise online. Just, if I see a question, I'll pop in and I'll answer it. And that's how people find me as well.
Nice. Nice. And do you know where this passion comes from helping students and being in the educational system?
From me.
Yeah.
It comes from me. I think it's just so innate for me to do something and gather on my own experience, and then on my own knowledge and everything that I've gone through and everything that I've learned, that I really want to share it with people, because it is difficult to be in a position where, I clearly remember in high school when the time came for the application process, my friends who were American would come to school and say, hey, my dad said when he was applying, he did this, or, my mom was looking this up online and she saw XYZ and that's what I'm going to be doing. And I didn't have that at home. My parents didn't have anything to share with me, and they were barely speaking English. They definitely were not doing any research for me online. And I don't even know if online existed back then. But anyway, they were not reading college books. They were not they wanted to help me. They didn't know how. So I think remembering that, and remembering how isolating this process was, and how confusing it was, and how difficult it was to navigate, that's where the passion comes from. I just want to help people. And that's why I am, a leader in my community. And that's why I try to share the knowledge that I have with people online for free, just because I want to, if there's a question and I can answer, I definitely offer that up as advice. So I think it's, and again, I told you, I'm obsessed with education. I love going to school. I love to learn. I love the whole system, how of being a student and then also being on the other side of the administrative side. So it's that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Nice. I always say that the best investment you can make is in yourself, and I consider
Mm-hmm.
myself to be an eternal student as well. So I definitely know where you're coming from. So um, I guess it's also very rewarding the work you do, right? That you get a lot of appreciation from your clients or your students. Or how do you
Yeah.
call them? Do you call them clients or students or?
So I would call my clients are definitely my students, and parents are my customers because they're the
Hmm.
paying party.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I say my students for the most part, but if you're talking about a family unit, who is my client? The student is my client. I work with students one-on-one. The parents will chime in or come into the consultations or email me with questions. They're also the ones who are the customers, right? Because they're buying the services. But my full energy and concentration is definitely on the students. And yeah, it is super rewarding. I have students who I've kept in touch with for years because they write me back and send me holiday cards, and you work with them so closely for sometimes multiple years. It's not, sometimes students come to me in ninth grade and I take them all the way through high school, helping them select classes in high school, helping them with their activities, trying to figure out how to shape them as a student to put their best foot forward in the college application process. There are other students that come to me right, last minute because they need to help them with an essay, or they need to strategize on exams, and they need help navigating that. And those students are kind of one-offs, they'll come, get their services and leave. But I do have a lot of long-term students and families because, if there's siblings, parents will, I'll have one of their kids, and then a couple of years later, I'll have another kid. So I do have families that come to me year after year with different kids, which is also really nice because you get to know them as a family unit
Yeah,
for a long time. It's great. Yeah.
nice. So your ideal client are big families then.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. Yeah, it's definitely more, the comfort level is already there. You don't have to prove yourself as you would with the first client because they know you're doing a great job, what you have to offer, and they listen to you and they don't try to argue with you, which is also very nice.
Yeah.
Because they trust you. And I think that is a big piece of my work, is for families and for parents and for students to trust me and trust the advice that I give is a good one,
Yeah.
because I do have the best interest at heart.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's referral based, and then when people come from by recommendation by somebody else, you're already ahead of the rest because they trust the person that's referring to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really important, to make sure that you still maintain as good of a service now as I did, 5 years ago, because someone can think of me 10 years from now. And, I hope I'm still doing this work 10 years from now, but it's the person who is referring you, it's their name on the line too. Because if all of a sudden my services went downhill, or if I'm not doing as good of a job, that person who referred would be to blame. So
Yeah.
I definitely have the responsibility, not to my current clients, but also to the ones who have referred me and who I had as clients in the past. It's a lot, it's a big responsibility, and I do feel sometimes the weight of it, especially during the application season when students are working so hard to put their applications together, writing their essays, taking their exams. It's a lot of things that are in play, but it's very rewarding, as you said. It's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you found the step going from just a paid job, within the university and colleges towards entrepreneurship? Was it a big step for you, or was it very smoothly?
It was a big step. And I never thought I would say this, but I guess thanks to COVID, that happened. So I was doing kind of I had the side gig, right, for a couple of years before I dropped my full-time job. And I was testing the waters. I had a few clients here or there, but I couldn't really do this full time because I had a full-time job and I had a family and I had little kids. So it wasn't really feasible. But as my reputation was growing, as my customer base was growing, COVID happened. And I think this was kind of a make it or break it situation for me. I could either say, okay, I am full on in entrepreneurship because now is the time where my kids are at home. I need the flexibility. I need to be able to make money, but also be present for my children. I have 3 of them. So it was really important. Or I could say, I need to leave this entrepreneurship piece behind because I can't do both and take care of the kids. Yeah. So, and I think the answer was difficult in a sense that it was really scary and there was a lot of risk. And it's, when you work for a large institution and the paycheck is going to be there no matter what, there is a certain comfort level. You're kind of like behind a wall that, you're protected. But and so that happened, and there were a lot of the colleges and universities were going through a really difficult time financially because there were hiring freezes and COVID was raging. Like when it started in 2020, nobody really knew what to do. So that was the time for me to jump off and do my own thing. So it was difficult, but it was also easy because a lot of things were basically pre-made for me. Like I had to do this, and I knew that I was good at it, and I knew that I already had clients. So all things considered, it was a decision well made, and it was constructed in a way that made it easier for me. So it was good. Yeah.
Nice. Never regretted the step?
Sorry?
You never regretted that you took the step?
No. I honestly, now looking back, I don't think I would ever be able to go and work for anyone else. I think there's just so much freedom that comes with being your own entity and your own business and being able to make those split minute, just decision because you feel like this is the right thing, to go with your gut feeling, which I never was able to do when I had a boss. Like I would have to think about, how am I gonna position this? How am I gonna tell my boss about this? And write 10 emails and then rewrite them and go to meetings. Now I can just sit at my computer and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm gonna pivot my strategy and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna try it. And if it doesn't work, it's my business. It's, I do whatever I want. There's so much freedom in that, and I can't stress that enough, that I never really I have friends who are entrepreneurs, and they always told me, like, once you branch out, it's really difficult to imagine yourself going back to the corporate world or going back to academia, whatever that may be, where you are not independent to make your own decisions. Never really got it until now, until I can sit down and tweak my pricing strategy and tweak my business plan and change my work hours, however I need to. And, if I need to block time off to spend time with the kids or to go on vacation, I don't need to ask for permission. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I do remember when I started working for myself 7 years ago,
Hmm.
that until that time, I always had time off between Christmas and New Year's Eve.
Hmm.
I always managed to be free within that period.
Yep.
And the first moment I registered the company at the Chamber of Commerce, that very same year, I was seeing clients between Christmas and New Year's Eve, and I didn't
Hmm.
even mind. And
Hmm.
I said to my wife, "Isn't that strange? I've always managed to keep that free time, and now that I'm my own boss, I'm planning work in between,
Yeah.
and I don't even mind."
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I work harder and more concentrated now than I have ever before. And I was always very protective of my time with my family when I was working for someone else. So when I was working for university, I was always very conscious about when I'm sitting on my computer, if I have a weekend activity that I need to attend or an evening, thing that I need to go to. It was always kind of like, oh, I'm taking time away from my family.
Yeah,
Well, now guess what? Most of my meetings are in the evenings because that's when students are available. Most of my consultations happen between 5 and 9 p.m., which is prime dinner time, all of that. And then after I'm done and I put the kids, kids are already either in bed or I'm just catching the last, half hour before they go to bed. And then I'm back to work. I'm reading books nonstop. I'm listening to podcasts and webinars, and I love it. I don't feel like I am taking time away from anything. It's kind of a part of my life now, and
yeah,
I'm really lucky that I have a very supportive husband who is also able to take care of my family when I am working in the evenings. So there's definitely a trade-off in that, but it feels really good to not count every single second that you are working. I don't even know how many hours I work, honestly. Like,
I feel the same. Yeah, I definitely
yeah.
know what you mean. It's
Mhm.
um this is saying that once you start doing what you love to do, you don't have to
Mhm.
work another minute again.
And that's
And
exactly
that's
how
how
I
it feels.
feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I
nice.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel because before, I would have to like track the time to report how many hours I've worked in a week. And it was always kind of like so regimented, my, oh, no way. Like I have to eat lunch and work at the same time. Like what a bummer. Now I don't even know when I eat. Some days I don't eat because I'm so engrossed in my work and I have consultations and students and webinars and things that are happening throughout the day, that and in the end, I go to bed. I'm like, that was a great day. I have
Yeah,
no idea how many hours I worked. I feel like I worked too many, but it feels great. Yeah, because you're right. Like it doesn't feel like work because I'm doing what I love and I know I'm helping and I'm making an impact in people's lives and that's what matters really.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I once heard an interview of a very famous DJ. In the Netherlands, we got a lot of international famous DJs, and he was
Mm-hmm. Armin
interviewed.
van Buren.
Yeah, this one was Chesto.
Oh, Tiesto,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he was being interviewed somewhere at the beach, and the interviewer asked him, "Isn't it hard? This work you're doing. You're flying all over the world, playing in the most awkward hours. Starting in the
Mm-hmm.
evening, ending in the early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all those different time zones you're working. Isn't that stressful? And he said, I don't feel it like that. I'm living my passion. I'm doing what I
Mm-hmm.
love to do. I make music. I create music. I entertain people, and
Mm-hmm.
people are willing to pay a good amount of money for that. What's more to like?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
it took a while to understand what he was meaning when I heard that. But now that I'm an entrepreneur, I totally get it.
yep. I totally get it as well. Yeah, for
I had
sure.
a I had another interview. Um, in this episode, in this series as well. And one of the other entrepreneurs said, that sometimes people don't follow their passion because they're afraid then the moment it becomes work, they won't like it anymore. And that's why they don't take the step to become an entrepreneur and follow their passion. And she believed, and I believed as well, that it stems from this wrong definition of work. It's like work is a bad thing, right? You can't enjoy it or something like that. Well, I think if something is your passion and you follow that and you have the privilege to do that for a living, what's more to like, right? It will never be boring.
I always wondered about professional athletes. And, I remember specifically my dad is a big basketball fan. And I remember being at a basketball game with my dad. And I turned to him like, Dad, like, don't they have the best job in the world? They basically play a game for their, game that they love, game that they're passionate about. They're playing a game and making a ton of money and it looks like they're having a great time on the court. Like, isn't that the best job? And, I've always wondered what that would feel like. And I feel like I am doing it right now and it feels amazing. Truly, truly amazing, because you're right. I think there's also, there's definitely a misconception around work. I also think there is a big fear of the risk that you would take by stepping out on your own. I think people put too much pressure on themselves to succeed immediately and not really take the time to build something incrementally. Again, if there is a chance for a person to do their, side gig or passion project, however you may want to call it, at the same time as they have full-time income somewhere else, that probably is an easier transition. It's kind of what I did. I was dabbling in, I knew that I really loved it. I was just really afraid to kind of let go of my income because I had a family and, young kids, and we were a two-income household. Like, I couldn't just pick up and be like, oh, that's it, I'm an entrepreneur and that's what I'm going to do. Again, I think COVID kind of decided that for me. But for a lot of people, it's also being scared of like, what's going to happen if I don't succeed. Also, I think people put too much value on what everybody else thinks about them and how that manifests into their life. Because when I first started doing this, when I had a full-time job and I was just kind of helping out friends, and then I was helping out, friends of friends and kids here and there, and I had students, just a handful, not a lot. And I was really afraid to talk about it because I didn't know how people would perceive it. And now looking back is like, what was I so afraid of? Like, why was that something that I perceived as, people judging me or, kind of not, what would happen? It mattered, in the big scheme of things, other people's opinions really don't matter as long as you are doing what you love and you're good at it. So I think that people should, as you said, follow their passion in the context of their ability to also make ends meet. Obviously that is a really important component is making money, but taking the risk and taking the plunge and following your passion, if there is a possibility to do so, I think is so rewarding and definitely worth it. Definitely worth the risk.
Yeah. It's also, I think it's also a matter of priorities. I remember, just like you did, I started as a side gig as well next to my day job. Um, and I started the second year. I also started a training, a 2.5 year program, and I just made time for that. Back then our boys were a bit younger. They went to bed at 8:30, 9 p.m. And between 9 and 11:30, we watched television. It was our time to relax, and we started watching television. And in the weekends, we watch a little bit more television.
Yep.
And the first thing that I decided was, okay, the moment I start with this training program, I'll just stop watching television.
Yeah.
And that saved me like at least 16 to 20 hours a week that I could spend on building my business, on doing my training, doing training exercises, practicing on clients. And I still have my day job.
Right. It's funny you say that, because I don't even remember last time I watched TV. And you're right. It used to be a nightly ritual. We would, the kids were in bed and it was kind of our time to sit back and relax. But now I watch webinars and I listen to podcasts and I read books, but it doesn't, again, it doesn't feel like I am working. It feels like I'm educating myself. I'm making myself better. And it's totally a point of setting your priorities. I 100% agree with you. And to be honest, the TV that we watched wasn't even all that great. So I don't feel like I gave up. I don't feel like I gave up anything, to be honest. If anything, I think I've gained a lot by, again, educating myself. And as I said, I'm a perpetual student. I still have homework. I have papers to write and research to do. And a lot of these things have to happen in the evenings or at night when it's quiet and there's no kids screaming. So, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and I totally understand what position you are right now or what you're doing, because I did the same, and I love helping people. And I always say that if I can make a difference in one person's life, it's already worth it, right? It's so rewarding to help somebody. Do you have an example of somebody that you, and you may brag about it, that you're proud of, that you helped him or her, succeeding in life or in university?
I do, actually. From this current cycle of senior students, I had a student who, she was a student from Ukraine, and she is a domestic, so she moved from Ukraine about 5 years ago. Her English was, not great. You're still in, ESL classes. She took exams, SAT and exam, which is what you need to, part of your application packet. Yeah. She had a very low score. Grades weren't that great because she didn't have support at home. Like, her parents didn't really have that couldn't provide a lot of support, obviously. Kind of a needy family. But I started working with her and took her through the last 12 months and wrote essays. We wrote essays together. We strategized on her application package. She also didn't have a lot of extracurricular activities because it was a student that didn't have a lot of friends, wasn't really outgoing. But the beauty of this whole story is that I researched colleges and universities for her, places where I knew for a fact that she could get into, even though she had not awesome grades, bad test scores, and very minimal extracurricular activities. I knew her story was good, and I knew that she, as a person, she was a great person, and she wanted to become a teacher she wanted to become an ESL teacher of all things, because again, of how the profound, the relationship that she had with her ESL teacher, how profound that was. And that's actually what we wrote her college essay about, that, she was so thankful to her ESL teacher, a person who taught her how to speak English. Again, she wasn't fluent by any means, but it was somebody that was really important in her life. And she got in to 3 out of 5 schools that we applied to.
Wow.
And she had an amazing scholarship that basically her parents are going to pay close to nothing for her to attend the school. So, and of course, her parents are beyond excited. As you know, I don't know if you know this, but
education
in the United States is exuberantly expensive, ridiculous.
I know. Yeah.
So the fact that she is not only able to go to college, but also go with a big scholarship for that specific program that she applied to. And she just actually emailed me a couple of days ago saying that she went to campus to check it out, and it's beautiful. It's, lots of green grass and everything she imagined her American dream to be. So I'm beyond happy for her.
Yeah. And it's almost like a similar story as yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
She got the help with this ELS teacher, which was so profound for her. Mm-hmm. And she knows that if she can become that same teacher, that she can help others as well, that are going through the same struggle as she's went through.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I think it's kind of a come full circle. And I think that's one of those stories that, I've had through the years, students who have done really well, or, like this turnaround story, but this has just been so recent. This is just this past admission cycle. And I think it's such a huge win for not only for the student, but also for the family, because one of the big concerns was, okay, like even if she gets in, how are we going to afford this?
Yeah.
How, what are we going to do? And we talked about loans, and we talked about maybe going to a community college, and, we had all these other plan Bs, but we didn't even have to do that because she got a huge scholarship in a place where she wanted to be.
Wow.
I also had another family, which was really interesting, just really quickly. This was last year, a family whose child got into a really prestigious university in the United States, and they didn't get any financial aid, no help at all. So I started working with them, and I realized there was a mistake that they made on their financials. So we filed a financial aid appeal, and the family actually ended up also turning from 0 financial aid to almost all of their tuition, room and board covered. And they would have to pay just like maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a year, which actually allowed this kid who was brilliant to attend the university, because they were saying, okay, if nothing happens, if this appeal doesn't go through, then he can't go to school because we cannot pay this amount of money. So I think this, just from me finding that mistake and working with the family and working with the university to help them figure this out, I think it pretty much changed this kid's life. It changed his definitely the next 4 years of where he was going to be, how he was going to get his education, really prestigious university, and then probably onward because of that diploma.
Wow. Don't you just love those stories?
I love. That's why I do what I do. I love
exactly it. And you just once you have maybe now and then you might have a bad day, just remember those 2 stories, and you know why you're doing what you're actually doing. And it's wonderful to have those experiences.
Yeah, of course, just like with anything in life, there's ups and downs. You try things and they don't work, and then you try something else and maybe it does work. But in the end of the day, if looking back, say like 20 years from now, if I look back and I think this was absolutely the right decision for me to do this, for sure.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Do you have any tips or little pieces of wisdom you would like to share with the audience to inspire them as well?
Other than follow your passion.
Of course.
I think, one, know your worth. I think I struggled a lot with kind of pricing and figuring out, okay, how much is my time worth? How much am I going to charge for certain services? And I think underpricing myself for a couple of years there before I was really feeling like, okay, no, I do know what I'm doing, and I have spent over 16 or 17 years working in academia. I have a lot of knowledge and background that is worth something. So not being afraid to price yourself right, not worrying about what other people may think of you. I remember when I first started talking about what I do, like when it became my prime business, and I went from kind of a closeted consultant into okay, this is my full-time job and this is what I do. And I started talking about it on social media, on my personal Instagram page, and I put it on LinkedIn, and I started sharing articles on Facebook. And the first couple of months, I was like, oh, are people gonna, I wonder what my friends are thinking, or I wonder what people are gonna say. But I've gotten nothing but positive feedback. I literally haven't gotten one bad comment or one person saying, who do you think you are? And I should have done this way earlier, because I've gotten a lot of referrals from my friends. If friends see a question on Facebook or somebody asks them, they just refer them to me. If I have done this, 5 years ago and not been so afraid about telling people, like, I have expertise, I have the knowledge, please, if you have questions, come to me, or bring your friends to me, or bring your kids to me, and I will help them. I think this would have snowballed a lot quicker. I also, if it's something is risky, it's probably worth it. If it's, whatever that saying is like, if it's not something that you're scared to do, then, or like, I forget the exact wording, but basically the premise is, if it's scary, then it's worth it. I do find that anytime I pivot my strategy, or I change something and it feels really scary, and it's like, I don't know if this is a good thing, it's always been a good thing. And I've trusted my gut feeling to do these things. And I would definitely say that if you're an entrepreneur, you know your business best. So even if you're doing something against best practices, you know what you need to do. You know your customers, you know your business. Follow that. And I think that, it is going to work out. It is.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I think, was this something like, if it doesn't scare you, you're not aiming high enough? Something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. That is definitely the premise. For sure. Yeah.
Nice. And it's indeed what you said, we sometimes we're afraid of what other people think of you, when you start promoting yourself, because sometimes it can feel like bragging, even though you can do it. It still feels like bragging. But what you don't want is, you don't want to be the best kept secret on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Now, if nobody can find you, how can you help them? So you have to get the word out. That's you're totally right on that. So with regards to that, if people want to know more about you or want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
The best way is my website is www.collegestarpoint.com. They can email me at collegestarpoint@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram and on Facebook, College Starpoint. So you can if you want to find me, you will definitely find me. I'm everywhere. You can. I also do have, this is a plug, I do have a series of videos on YouTube. If you just put in the search my name, Anya Ilkys, ANYAILKYS, There is going to be a series of 6 webinars that I did that cover pretty much every aspect of college application process, which is a great resource for someone that is, just looking at colleges or just thinking about colleges, for younger students and parents as well, who are maybe just curious. But if you don't, this is a free resource. I'm happy to share all of this information. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube as well.
Perfect. I won't say you're all over the place because you're very structured, but if people have a hard time to find you, then they're not putting in the effort.
Yeah, website is definitely the best way, collegestarpoint.com. You can also get in contact with me through there. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I guess we can talk for hours on this subject but that's everybody talking about the passion, and I love to hear it. It energizes me as well. So thank you for this wonderful insight in your business and your passion. I hope the listeners also feel the energy that I'm feeling right now. Yeah, I want to thank you for your time, Anya, for being my guest in this show, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and the best of luck to you and your business. And I do hope we can keep in touch. We're on LinkedIn together, so definitely through there.